So when building a fire structure, we're going to be building a fire structure. We're going to build a conical fire structure. And what's really important is that we have a lot of small twigs. Twiglets, mouse tails, whatever you want to call them. The really fine sticks or twigs are what's going to get this fire going. So given where we're at, I am immediately scanning the horizon, the woods for hemlock trees. Hemlock trees are a resource worth looking for. They have the finest of twigs, truly just very small. And oftentimes they're dead below, and so they make for easy harvesting. They're easy to just snap back and gather up. Doesn't mean that you need just hemlock twigs. You can get any small twigs, right? But for me, energy efficiency wise, it's just really helpful to be able to look for these, find them, and gather them up. So I tend to just snap back. I'm collecting only dead things. And with conifers, it's really easy to tell because they don't have their needles. You know, larch is the only one in this area that drops its needles. So it's really important that you only gather dead twigs. If it has green needles on it, then it's going to be full of moisture and it's going to burn really inefficiently and you're going to have a pretty smoky fire. So I like to gather up all of these small twigs and have like a nice grip load. And then I'll gather the rest of my firewood in mass. What's really nice about these, not only are they the smallest and the finest of twigs, but they're also elevated up and above the ground. Hot, dry summer days, maybe you can get away with gathering off of the ground, but I tend to avoid it. Also, again, moisture, smokier fires. So these being elevated, they're drying out by the wind, they're getting access to the sun, they're just the finest of materials. So my preference or my process is that I tend to gather all of my really small stuff in one grip load and I put that down. And then I go and I'm looking to harvest the larger fuel that I need. So when we're talking about branches, for small twiglets up and off of the ground, I'm also looking at these much larger ones. And what I like to do is snap them off as large as I can and just drag whole branches or whole standing dead trees back to my fire pit. And I can break it up there. And what's great about that is that it's going to give me all of these gradations of fuel sizes, you know, from pinky to wrist to etc., right? From small to large. So if you can work in large mass and drag it back, it's going to be a lot more energy efficient versus taking sticks and breaking them up into small sections and carrying them back bundle by bundle. You really want to be careful when you're snapping wood and gathering firewood. You know, when it comes to hazards in the woods, and we talk about this a lot, it's not black bears, it's not, I don't know, pterodactyls or what have you. Sometimes it's really the simple things. And so just being safe and thinking about where your body is in relationship to where the wood is breaking is going to be really important, and that you have a degree of control and that you're not using all of the force of your body such that if something snaps unexpectedly, it's going to create a problem, because safety is really first and foremost when it comes to any sort of like survival or wilderness living experience. I pretty much never use tools when gathering firewood. I find that it's unnecessary, and if anything, probably just slows me down. A couple of things that come to mind. You're going to have an easier time gathering all this material and walking it out to your fire structure if you gather all the butt ends in an organized fashion, because then you can lift it by that and you can walk through rather than having like a jumble, an arm load that's unwieldy. And also, auditorially, if you picked up those nice snaps and cracks, that's another feature that's going to tell you your wood is dry and more ideal to burn. You want to avoid any unnecessary injury, and some wood is just too dense and too big to break against your body. So if you can find two trees that are growing close to each other, you can use that and a little bit of leverage and easily snap pretty sizable wood down into workable segments. So we want to be able to gather deciduous trees throughout the year, and half of the year they don't have their leaves on, so it can be harder for some folks to tell if they're alive or not. And one way to look at it is through just general appearance. You know, if it has bark flaking off, things like that, things that are obvious, then it's most likely dead. And this is really helpful because we want stuff that's up and elevated and off the ground. So standing dead and branches that are accessible are going to be really beneficial to your fires. Another thing that you really want to keep in mind is that you can look at the bud structure when the trees don't have their leaves. So here we're standing in front of a beech tree, part of which is dead, part of which is alive. And rather than trying to dig my thumbnail into it or bending it and seeing the green wood start to splinter out, what I can do is take a look at where the buds are or where they aren't. And that will be one of the best indicators. So here we have beech buds. The buds of all trees are going to have their own individual signature marks that identify them. Beech is really recognizable for how long their buds are. They are some of the longest, if not the longest buds. And so you can see them right here in this beautiful golden growth. And what these are this coming year's leaves, all tightly enfolded and covered up by scales. And so the tree last summer produced these leaves, protected them from drying out, and very shortly we'll start to see them unfurl. So if I'm seeing these buds and in their full glory of growth, then I know that this branch is green, therefore is full of moisture, not something I want to burn.